When you hear the word porcelain, you probably think of delicate teacups or, fancy dinner plates. But what if I told you that this material was once a revolutionary technology, a state secret held for 1,000 years that powered entire economies, transformed cultures, and literally reshaped the world? Let's get into it. I mean, just think about this for a second. In English, we call the country China, and we call this specific type of ceramic China. That is one of the most powerful linguistic clues in all of history. The connection was so profound that the material became completely synonymous with its home country. You just don't see that anywhere else. So that's the big question we're digging into today. How on earth did a single material get so famous, so important, that it literally came to represent the nation that created it? And believe me, the answer isn't just about art. It's an incredible story of technological genius, global economics, and a fundamental shift in how people live their daily lives. Okay, so to really get why porcelain was such a game changer, we have to look at what everyone was using before it came along, and that was basic pottery or earthenware. For thousands of years, that's all humanity had. But honestly, it had some serious drawbacks. Earthenware, which is fired at pretty low temperatures, was super porous and brittle. It would soak up water, stain like crazy, and you definitely couldn't use it to boil liquids directly over a fire. But porcelain, well, porcelain was a different beast entirely. It was fired at incredibly high temperatures until it became vitrified. Basically, it turned into this strong, almost glass-like substance. It was tough, hygienic, and nearly waterproof. This wasn't just a small improvement, it was a total revolution in material science.
So, how did ancient artisans in China manage this incredible leap? How did they go from porous old pottery to this pristine, perfect material? Well, it wasn't a single eureka moment. It was a series of brilliant technological breakthroughs that took place over centuries.
It really all came down to three huge innovations. First, you gotta have the right ingredients. They discovered kaolin, this pure white clay that could handle intense, intense heat without cracking. Second, they had to master fire. They built these massive dragon kilns that could reach temperatures earlier kilns couldn't even dream of. And third, they developed these amazing high-temperature glazes that would literally fuse with the clay, creating a seamless, waterproof shield. Each one of those steps was a massive achievement. And all of this came together in what you could call their secret sauce, the two-part formula. In the city of Jing, artisans perfected this recipe of blending porcelain stone, which basically melts into glass, with that special kaolin clay, which provides strength and structure. This was the magic combination. It let them create porcelain that was stronger, whiter, and more translucent than anything before it, and it turned Jing into the undisputed porcelain capital of the world. And the key to the whole process was hitting this temperature, 1,280 degrees Celsius. That's over 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit. At that searing heat, the raw materials didn't just bake. They went through a complete chemical and physical transformation. They vitrified, becoming a totally new, unified substance. This mastery of extreme heat was what unlocked the true potential of porcelain.
So, after perfecting this technology, China didn't just have a new kind of ceramic. No, they had a world-changing product on their hands. One that was about to kick off an epic global story of trade, wealth, and cultural transformation. But here's the thing. This technology was a closely guarded secret. Just look at this timeline. It shows how incredibly slowly it spread. After being invented in China way back in the Eastern Han Dynasty, it took nearly 1,000 years just to get to Korea and Japan. It influenced ceramics in the Middle East, for sure, but the actual recipe was still a mystery. It wasn't until the 18th century, more than 1,500 years after it was invented, that Europe finally figured it out. And during that long monopoly, porcelain became an absolute engine of economic power. It was way more than just a luxury good. It was a global commodity. It drove a river of silver into China, it built the fortunes of huge port cities, and it became the single most traded item on the maritime Silk Road. It was so common on ships, it was even used as ballast to keep them stable. If you really want to grasp the sheer value of this stuff, get this. Augustus the Strong, a European ruler, literally traded 600 of his best soldiers, his entire cavalry squadron, for a set of vases. That's not just buying something nice, that's a geopolitical transaction. Porcelain was, in every sense of the word, white gold. But its impact wasn't just in royal palaces and treasuries. It trickled all the way down and changed daily life for regular people.
All over the world, people who used to eat off of leaves or wood or porous pottery that was hard to clean suddenly had a new option, an option that was clean, durable, and beautiful. This fundamentally changed hygiene, dining customs, and the whole idea of sharing a meal.
So, as you can imagine, this immense value and prestige created an absolute obsession in Europe. For centuries, they were just buyers, not makers, and they were desperate to change that. This kicked off a frantic, centuries-long race to unlock the secret of white gold.
Monarchs poured fortunes into special workshops. Alchemists, who were already busy trying to turn lead into gold, were given this new, seemingly impossible task: turn European clay into porcelain. And they tried everything, mixing clay with ground glass, bone ash, you name it. But they just couldn't replicate that unique mix of strength and translucency.
So how did they finally crack the code? Well, it was a mix of science, trial and error, and a big dose of industrial espionage. A French missionary named Père d'Entrecoles was living in Jing, the heart of production, and in the early 1700s, he wrote these incredibly detailed letters back to Europe explaining everything: the two-part formula, the kiln technology, the whole shebang. He was, arguably, the world's first great industrial spy. And those letters, combined with relentless experimentation back home, led to this moment. The year is 1708. In the workshops of Augustus the Strong, yep, the same guy who traded his soldiers for vases, an alchemist named Johann Batager finally succeeded. He created the first true hard-paste porcelain ever made in Europe. And just 2 years after that breakthrough, the Meissen factory was founded. This was the turning point. It marked the end of a technological monopoly that had lasted for well over a millennium, and it kicked off Europe's own celebrated tradition of making porcelain. So we've followed this incredible materials journey from a technological leap in ancient China across the entire globe. But what is the enduring legacy of porcelain today?
The legacy of porcelain is all around us. It's in the priceless vases you see in museums, sure, but it's also in the coffee mug on your desk. But its technical properties, being heat-resistant and a terrible conductor of electricity, also make it a critical material in modern technology. It's used for things like high-voltage electrical insulators and even dental implants. It is the perfect testament to how a single innovation in materials can echo for centuries.
It's amazing to think that this all began with someone trying to create a better bowl, and it ended up defining an era. Which leaves us with a final thought. What is our porcelain? In an age defined by silicon chips, graphene, and advanced polymers, what's the material today that holds that same power to reshape our economy, our culture, and our daily lives for the next 1,000 years?